This is basically why I'm doing this, is to force me to learn Blender, finally. I'm a Maya user, and I think it's time for me to learn Blender. So that's what we're gonna do in this new series with Raul, a senior environment artist, currently working at Respawn Entertainment. He's worked on the God of War series and the Jedi Survivor series, and he loves Blender. This is basically why I'm doing this, is to force me to learn Blender, finally. If you do follow Atmo, you also know when we're about to go live, because we're doing this completely live. You can ask questions as we're doing this, and you can also give suggestions too, in case we forget something. This will be the first chapter, just interface and checking how Blender works, and then we'll move on to other techniques as well. So be sure to follow, subscribe, check the bell so you always get notified for the next episode. Let's get into this. Okay, so here it is. I have always been a Maya user, and I dabbed in Blender like a long time ago, just a tiny bit. And I saw some things that were pretty cool, but I had used a plugin to convert it to Maya controls, and I never touched it since. And that was like a few years ago. I want to learn Blender, how it's supposed to be learned, and how do you make it easier for Maya users to like view the interface. So basically, this is obviously the perspective view, right? It's not like Houdini and they call vertices points, right?
Yeah, the name has changed, but it all goes back to the fundamentals of 3D. So I guess let me start like this. Like you, I was also a Maya user, and right about the time I was leaving Sony Santa Monica, one of the excitements I had was that I was going to get to use another program, Blender.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was excited for it is because it was newer, or at least I thought it was newer. I didn't realize it's been around for a very long time. And so it made me very excited because from what I've seen, just from the small user base that it had, a lot of people have done very cool stuff. But I was more drawn to the like real-time viewport that it has and all the cool tools that I had seen some people do. So my biggest problem with Maya was just that it was always very limiting with a lot of things. Like you had to go get some tool, or in my case, I always just made my own scripts, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing with Maya is that there's no true scattering system. There's Mash, and it gets the job done, but it's not. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not like Clarice. It's not like Houdini. They try to say Bifrost, but no one fucking uses Bifrost. I was talking to an effects guy who's like super senior effects guy, and he's like, yeah, I don't know anyone using Bifrost.
Yeah, and then for me, because when I was at Sony Santa Monica, Maya was our engine and viewport. Like we didn't have Unreal Engine or anything. It was Maya. It was nice to have all the, like, I didn't realize how customized Maya was until I was using it at home, and I realized, oh man, I'm missing a lot of stuff that I usually need. Just simple things like being able to see the vertex colors, or seeing a texture scroll. So the biggest selling point to me in Blender was that it's easily accessible to everybody. And there's already a lot of users that have made a lot of content for it, so that's always very nice.
It's free too. That's what's cool. Like I wish that most studios still just use Maya, but they are more forgiving lately for people to use it, like let's say outside the pipe, or if you want to go and like make something inside a Blender, that's cool.
And I think, that note, the way, because I've always used several softwares and never just used one software, and that's not for any I don't know, I just find the strength and weaknesses of every software, so I just go with that. And because of what I do and for how long I've been doing it, I never just consider myself just a modeler or like a material artist, because as an environment artist, I'm a jack of all trades. And then I focus on one thing and I get it done, so like I'm doing all kinds of things. So I've always just used the right tool for the job, I guess. But what I like about Blender is that everything's in it. Like now, even with the procedural stuff, you can do a lot. It's still no replacement for Houdini, but it's a huge
Well, how would you
contender.
compare the procedural nodes with Houdini?
Well, I feel like for Houdini, you definitely need to know a lot about what a vector means and things like that.
So this is going to be more artist friendly?
Yeah, like the one in Blender is still a little kind of technical because it does require you to do some math here and there. But I feel like whoever designed it to just be plug and play, which is pretty nice. And then there's like people who have made their own like presets, so you can download that and then do even more stuff. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, so why don't we just jump into Blender and get started, right?
All right.
Yeah, so the first thing is every Maya user does this, even myself. When they start using Blender, they want to use it with Maya keys.
Yeah, that's why I used that plugin.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to move around. I didn't want to spend time trying to figure this out.
that is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Like,
yeah, that's what I figure. That's
a huge mistake. Now, it's okay if you're just getting in there and you're the art director and you just want to see what people are doing. Like, that's cool. But if you really want to get down and dirty with Blender, you just got to embrace it. But in that note, it's more like the techniques, right? Because if you know how to push polygons on one program, you're definitely going to be able to do it here, right? So I went ahead and downloaded Blender 4, which just came out a few weeks ago. So when you open it all nice and fresh, the first thing it says is it asks you if you want to change your stuff to Maya keys. So the answer is always no. If you
believe
do,
me, like every Maya user is going to be like, please no.
And then I know everybody fights me with this, and again, this is just my opinion, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But I'll show you why.
The reason why I stopped and I thought I shouldn't learn it that way is because all the tutorials do not use the Maya keys.
Yeah.
So it's hard to figure out the tutorials.
And then so now here's the thing, though. Even though you don't use Maya keys, doesn't mean that Blender can't do it, right? So, like, there's many YouTube channels out there that show you that there's actually a guy that does specific tutorials for Maya users, and it's pretty cool because that's how I started. But from there, I just went on my own, and I realized that I needed to learn Blender as it is, not make it Maya, because if I'm going to use Maya, I might as well just use Maya, you know? So yeah, let's go in there and say no, right? I'm not gonna get super newbie, but like basically Blender viewport, it's like that, and then you have a box in the middle. And like if for anyone who uses 3D Max, which I also used to do 3D Max, the first thing here is that in Maya you go into object mode. Here you don't. You also go into object mode. But you don't hold the space bar because the space bar does something else. So instead you hit tab. And so what tab does is that up here at the very top, you're going to get all these different menus. And this is what kind of makes Blender interesting, because the first time you see this, you're like, what the heck is all this, right? So the one we're going to concern about right now is this edit mode, right? So with this edit mode, now you're inside of the actual mesh and you can move the mesh components, right? So Blender has faces, edges, and points, right? And so like you can move stuff around, and this is the second thing that throws everybody off, which is how do you actually move things? And I feel like this is where I always laugh, and because I enjoy seeing people scratch their heads because they won't do it like how the program does it. They want to do it how they used to doing it, which is fine. So if you come up here to the side, you can grab the move tool, the rotate tool, the scale tool, and then doing this, you can like work like you do in Maya, right? Or you could get on with the times and use the gesture-based system that they built. So basically, if I hit G is the hotkey for move. So right now, what it's doing is that it's going to work based off where you're looking at. So that's how it's moving, right? Because that is the behavior that they built. However, if you want to move it on the Z-axis, what you do is you hit G once, and then you hit Z because you want to move on the Z-axis. And then you go like this, right? Now,
so that's just for ease. You can still just use the arrows if you want to go.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like you can still use the arrows. It's just now later I'll show you an add-on that you can download to fix this. But I still use a mix of both because sometimes I'm trying to be very precise, and doing this whole thing of doing this doesn't always do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know guys that they don't do this. They just legit use this. And that's fine, right? But one thing I do like about that mode is that you could, like, if I wanted to flatten this in Maya, you use the scale tool and then you
Yeah.
basically flatten it, right? But here, if I do S for scale and then Y to go on the Y axis and I hit 0 and then it gets flattened.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So the same thing. If I want to move this, like if I know that this thing needs to get moved 2 meters higher, now I just hit 2 and it moves it 2 meters higher.
Huh.
Right. So once you understand that those things exist, then now you're outside of the Maya realm and now you're in Blender world. Right. Then Maya has a little shelf, and then that's where all artists are used to going in and clicking on stuff to do what they need. Blender doesn't have a shelf, but it has other things similar to it, right? So all the modeling tools are here on the side, right? So you have the extrude, the inset faces, bevel, loop cut, whatever, right? And all these guys have hotkeys. So the bevel, for example, if you hold the mouse over, it says it's Control B, right? So if I go over here and I do Control B, see, it does this.
Would you say that modeling in Blender is faster than Maya?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of technical reasons for it, like literally like efficiency of the program that does in the background, and then there's also like the fact that everything's more intuitive and it just works like it should. And also Blender doesn't really keep history, so it just makes the program run faster, so you don't get a lot of hiccups that you get with Maya. Because in Maya, I always find myself constantly deleting the history. Right? Yeah, if I do Control B, that bevels. Now I can use the mouse wheel to add more divisions. Right? Then I can come in and I can like basically start doing all the things that you usually do in any other program. Right? But the thing is, though, that eventually you're going to hit a cap there because you're going to want to configure things in a certain way that they work for you, right? And that's when you start downloading add-ons. But I don't really want to download any add-ons today. I just want to like answer usual questions that you have, because you said you had a question you wanted to ask.
So you did the bevel, and then how'd you round it out?
I used the mouse wheel.
Mouse wheel. Interesting. Okay.
See.
Huh. All right.
And then if you select the face, E extrudes it. So let me start over. So if I make a mesh.
We should make a cheat sheet for all these commands or hotkeys and stuff.
Yeah. If you type in Blender hotkeys on Google, they come up.
They probably already exist.
Yeah. So like, for example, if I were to do this, like right now, if you want to snap to the grid, you have to hold control. Yeah, control. And then that snaps to the grid, right? And so if I hit X, deletes things. But what's interesting about this delete mode is that they're going to ask you what you want to delete. And that's kind of a hassle because every time you want to delete things, you have to go to this menu, right?
Yeah.
But if you eventually you can start setting up hotkeys to get rid of that stuff, right?
So when you're selecting, you select anything. You don't get to isolate, let's say, faces or edges like you can in Maya.
You can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just have.
But then when you delete, it still tells you like what to delete, or.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
it's just it's because it's more precise because it's actually asking, do you want to delete the points and leave the faces? Do you want to delete the points and delete the faces?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
because that's the difference between like delete edge versus just hitting delete on the keyboard in Maya.
Yeah. And so if I go over here, and this tab has a lot of buttons that right now, if you've never seen this, they probably don't make any sense. But if I go over here to the little wrench, this is the modifier tab, right? So from here, I can type in mirror. And what this is going to do is that it's going to allow us to mirror a mesh, right? So this is similar to 3D Max where you have a modifier stack and you can combine it with other things. So right now I'm combining it. I have this nice mirror stack and it's just doing mirroring, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
it's basically nodes, like it's node based in a way.
No, this is no node based yet.
No, what I mean is the stacks, the modifiers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like Maya. Yeah. So from here, I can start doing this kind of stuff, and then fill hole shift. You can select multiple. Hold on. What was I doing here? Oh yeah, let's do it like this. So I'm gonna delete this, and then I'm gonna also mirror on that side. So I don't have any Hotkeys set up right now, so that's why I'm messing everything up. But right now, if I come here, I can go to hold on.
What are you looking for?
Connect. Let's see. Edge. Let's use this one. So this is the cut tool. Mm-hmm. This cut tool is just the same as the cut tool in Maya. In fact, it behaves the same way.
Yep.
So right now, I can basically go in and say S, and then for scale, and then Z for the Z axis, and then hit 0, and then that will flatten everything.
Huh. That's cool.
Right. So now I can select these guys, and I can hit E, and then see I can extrude. Mm-hmm. However, if you come here, you can tell it to extrude along normals, and then it follows the normal. So that makes it nice because it knows what you're trying.
Can you extrude and then change your mind like you can in Maya? So you're saying along more normals or detached faces?
Yes, but it works a little different though, because if I do this, the moment I let go, the only time that you can do that is by going into here to the extrude. Like every one of those tools.
Where'd you go? My face was covering it.
Oh, can you move your face?
Yeah, I did. I moved it.
So every time you do this, it basically every tool has some sort of property menu that shows up, like settings.
Okay.
And then this is the one for that one, right? So for this one, you can tell it to do specific things.
And does it stay there after you move on to another tool? Like how in Maya you can go back to like its history and
no, because this is what you get kind of thing. Like once you get let go, it's done for. Like it's gone forever. You're never gonna see it. So then if I do Shift D, I can duplicate a model. See, right? And then I can pretty much just Maya style, just move it into place, right? And then if I take this higher a little bit, right now I'm trying to build some sort of weird pillar, but if I take this higher, that would be the base. And then if I make this bigger, so this is what I wanted to show. So right now, what I would like to do is I want to scale everything but from the origin, because right now it's selecting the entire selection. The way you do that is that you have to come over here to this menu and you want to change JIT to active element. And then you basically just select the last point. The last point selected now serves as the pivot point. And at first that took me a while to wrap my head around, but once I figured that out, I guess it started making sense.
So do that again real quick. So you select point and you've got the tool up at top.
Yeah, so you go up here and then this is going to be like basically the transform pivot point menu. And then from here, you can choose how you want the pivot point to behave. So what I wanted to do is that, so Blender doesn't have like a pivot point like Maya does, which drives everybody nuts, including me at first. So you have to learn that you have to use these in combination to get things to move the way you want. And then once you figure that out, then it's very easy to know which one you want to use. So medium point is what it was set to before. So medium point basically sets the pivot point to the center of the selection. And then active element is going to set it to the last selected point. So right here, right?
And can you change it based off of object or normals or?
Yeah. So basically, this kind of works like in Maya, where you hold insert and then hold the V key for snapping, like point snapping.
Yeah.
And then you snap the pivot point to a point, right? So that's exactly what this is doing, except that it's not affecting the pivot point physically. It's just like moving it temporarily in this mode, right? So I did that, and then I did that for the purpose of making this bigger, right? But maybe I didn't want to make it too big. Okay. So that's cool. If I come and select these, now hit X. Now what I want to do is I want to get rid of those edges. So I do dissolve edges. And that basically does what you will get in Maya when you do control and backspace.
When you're moving around the camera, what keys are you using?
Oh yeah. So you hold the middle mouse button so you can orbit.
Okay.
And then the mouse wheel zooms in. And
so
then
you can't use like Alt and drag in?
No.
Okay.
And then you hold shift with the middle mouse button to do W like this.
Okay. So it's middle mouse. So the scroll wheel is what you're saying. I have to push.
Yeah.
To, what was that again?
So middle mouse to dolly around like this.
That's pan.
Oh yeah, sorry, pan. And then if you use the mouse wheel, like you actually scroll it.
Scroll in. Okay.
You can zoom in. And then if you hold the middle mouse wheel, then you can orbit around your model.
That's cool.
Right. And what I like about this is that if you hold Alt and middle and you do use the middle mouse button, it will take you to the closest photographic view like this.
Okay, that's cool.
So like this isn't like Maya where it's just bound to front and right and all that stuff. Like you can like if I do middle mouse button, like if I hold it and then click, now I'm out of it.
Okay.
So it makes it very
hold
fast.
It and click?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
If you just kind of click it once.
Okay.
So the middle mouse button, you click it once, it takes you out of it.
All right. Huh. I guess I'm going to have to just get my hands on it and try.
Sorry. So you hold Alt and then you click the middle mouse button.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that pushes you to the next orthographic view, but if you don't hold Alt, it takes you out of it. See?
Okay.
All right. I guess the next thing would be like
wait a second. What if people just have two buttons on their mouse? Not every mouse has a middle mouse.
I don't know. They should go buy a new one.
The fault of Blender. It's like Apple. You have to buy extra accessories.
No, there's actually a mode that you can go set what mouse button you want to use. Yeah, let's continue with this thing. Yeah, so I guess what I want to do here is kind of like just make a bevel. So Control B. So that way I can split it, and then now I can come in and use. Oops, sorry. I do right mouse button, so I can go to extrude faces along normals, and then I can do a little inset like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, now it's starting to look like some kind of like diner's pillar thing. Yeah. So if you're happy with all these pieces right now have this mirror modifier assigned to it. So what you want to do is you want to actually apply it. So you hit apply. So now they're frozen, just like Maya, right? And then this one also frozen. So if I want to combine all this to one thing, you do Control J, and that combines everything together, right?
Okay.
So from here, I could snap this.
Where's combined? If I forget the hotkeys, where can I do combined?
You can select the two meshes and go here and then go to...
How'd you pull that up?
It's just right click.
Oh, right click.
Join.
Okay.
Sorry, it was called join, not combine.
Oh, okay.
So then I guess like if I were working on a game and I were trying to make some sort of like architectural set, now I can do Alt D, and Alt D basically duplicates instance. If I move that, the other one gets changed. So you can also do stuff like go assign a modifier called an array modifier. And what this array modifier is gonna do is that it's gonna like allow you to basically make copies of this, and then you tell it what direction you want it to go into. So right now I'm just eyeballing stuff, but like if I do -3 there, so like -3, yeah, something like that, right? So that's cool because now I have all these pieces that are like lining up, and then all I gotta do is like tweak this one. Now the problem with that is that they all work based off a bounding box. So if you start moving things too much, things are gonna break.
Yeah.
But what I like though is that if this was a separate, like a very different piece, let's just change something about it very quickly. Oh, hold on. So right now, these two guys are instances, right? So what I can do is I can say, hey, I want this to be unique, like in Maya, where you go to convert, and then you say from instance to GL.
Yeah.
So this one, you have to go to object, parent, and hold on, I always forget where it is. 1 second. Yeah, here. So the keyword here is make local, right? So you basically wanna make a single user and object data, right? So once you do that, this will be on link, and then it's just gonna work the way individually, like how you expect. And then you can do crazy things like you can select this and copy the modifiers, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Like what's neat about this is that now, like, all I will have to do is make a floor. So so if you do Shift A, that's the equivalent of going into a Maya shelf to find something. And then I can choose plane. So this plane, I can make it 4 meters, right? And so this one, though, what I want to do maybe is give it like a better pivot point, because the pivot point that I have right now isn't that great for what I want to do. So
is there go back to the shelf real quick? Sorry. Is there a version of the shelf on here that you can just see? Because I'm not going to remember every single hotkey.
well, there's this add here.
Oh, okay, so just go to add. All right.
Right.
And then eventually I'll learn the hotkeys as I go along.
Yeah. So it's just that. So that's one thing I like about Blender, that most of the hotkeys go with the letter that they're bound to. So Shift A means like, yeah. So what I want to do though is I want to change the pivot point. So as an environment artist, this is something you do often,
24/7.
and it's something that it took me a while to figure out how to do when I opened Blender for the first day. Right.
Well, what got you to actually push through all this stuff and use Blender?
Because I'm just like that, man. I just do stuff. So this thing is 8 meters, right? And the reason I know that is because the grid, every one of the grid lines is 1 meter.
Okay.
Right. So what I want to do,
they don't work in centimeters like mine.
They can, but I just know that's 1 meter, right?
Okay.
In fact, if you go here, I'm gonna hit the N key, and I'm gonna click it again. So if you click this little arrow, that exposes the item properties just like Maya does.
Mm-hmm.
So from here, you can change the stuff manually. So if you want to push it like 8 meters or whatever, you can do it from there, right? But what's interesting though is that this thing also lists the dimensions of an object. And one of the big reasons I love Blender is because it automatically defaults to meters, because I'm foreign and I never understood how to measure things in inches. So Blender's pretty cool like that. Like it just out of a box just does that. In Maya, you had to set that up. So what I want to do though is I want to go up here to options and click on origins. And then now what you notice is that this
Sorry
thing,
for the logo going over that stuff. I'm doing the free version of this. I'm thinking it won't be in the next one. It's
Okay.
like literally on top of what you were clicking.
Oh,
It animates onto it.
so options and then origins.
Okay.
Right? If you do that and then hold the control key, now that origin gets snapped to the pivot point. So to lock it again, you just go back here, right? So now I can move this accordingly. And then what I can do at this point is that I can basically maybe put it right there and then also copy the same modifiers from that one. Except now that one's going to go into infinity because this mesh is a different size. So, you can move it. So if I hold shift, every time you move one of the sliders, you can change the speed that it's moving in. So like if you want to do a fine number, that's how you will do that. Here, I just know that because of how I made it, if I hit one, it's just going to work, right? And so right now it has one of these applied to it. So maybe what I would like to do is have two so I can add another one, like a second one. Oops, I deleted it by mistake. Add another array modifier. And then set this thing instead to just go on the y-axis like this. All right.
Can you drag the modifiers around to change the order of operations?
You can see, but
Yeah.
I actually don't use this UI. I use a special add-on that allows me to work with this easier.
Okay.
Because like this one's kind of a pain to use. And then the order does matter because depending on what you're doing, that's what you're going to see, right? And then if you want to mute them, you click on the camera icon right here. So now they're muted. So what I want to do is maybe hit like 5 because for some reason it's not doing anything. Oh, I'm doing the CX. There you go. So now I have two going across, right? And then if I turn the modifier that I had on before, now I have them going all the way through, right? And the reason why this is neat is because now I can come in and I can do stuff to this. So if I were trying to make some kind of ancient floor that had some sort of like patterns and designs, I can very quickly iterate, test my designs with this thing. So I can basically cut. Actually, let's do it here. So if you do Control R, that basically is going to try to cut the entire model. And then if I do use the mouse wheel, it allows you to choose how many cuts you want to do. But right now, I just want maybe a few like this, right? And then see you can see it happening on the other side. Now the reason why this isn't working here is because this model is working the way it should be, but I was expecting it to look mirror, right? So there's things you can do to change how this affects your stuff. Hold on. Oh yeah. So now let's say that you liked one of these pieces, right? And then now you want to commit to making a high poly or something. So you can grab it and then you remove those modifiers. And then one of the things that I really like about Blender is that...
How'd you isolate it like this?
Oh, so you grab it and then Shift H will isolate the selection.
Okay.
And then Alt H will unhide everything. And then you were asking me earlier about how to just isolate models, because right now I'm hiding models. Mm-hmm. So hiding and isolating, even in Maya, is not the same thing, right? So when you isolate something, it means that everything else is turned on. Mm-hmm. But your model is active and you're only seeing parts of it, right? Yeah. So in here, that's called local view. There's not a button that says isolate. So for that, let me see. So let's dive into making a hotkey, because I honestly don't remember what that is. So if you go to preferences, the preferences are very, very simple, right? And it's got this little input key map area right here. And this is where you will go if you only have two mouse buttons, and you don't have a third one, right? So this is very important to know. Also, like right now, the active keys is the blender key. So what you probably want to do before you do anything weird is that you hit the plus sign and you do your own keys, right? So now those are going to be my hotkeys, right? And so if you already know what you're looking for, you can type it in. So you can type in for local view. So sometimes when I forget what the hotkeys for something is, especially if it's something I did, I just come back here and I just type in the name of the script that I set it to. But this is pretty neat because you can find stuff, right? And then right now what I was looking for is the /. So if I come back in here and I hit /, not only did it isolate things, but it also zoomed into it. And the zooming part is something that you don't necessarily want to keep because that gets annoying after a while. So every one of the hotkeys has special settings and you can turn stuff off. So I just turned that one off. So now if I click it again, it isolates everything and unisolates everything. But if I click it again, it didn't zoom me in, right? And then this same hotkey works for faces. So if I hit that, sorry.
What was the hotkey again?
If the /.
/.
Right. So in here though, what you will have to do if you want to isolate faces, you don't isolate the faces. You literally have to hide them. So do Shift H, right? So now you're inside of the faces, and you can.
That's cool.
Yeah. So now the reason I want that is because I wanted to select this and I want to push them up, right? But yeah. So let's say that you're happy with this and you want to make a sculpt out of it. And one thing I like about Blender that it comes with sculpting tools, and it's actually something I've been using a little bit of lately. So,
how do you compare it with ZBrush?
I think it's pretty there. ZBrush is this beast that has grown over the years, and it's got like 1,000 arms, and even the people that made it don't know what it does anymore. So,
yeah, I don't use any of those new ones. I basically have stopped learning the new stuff since 2000. I don't know, probably like 15 or something.
I was forced to use ZBrush at Sony Santa Monica because that's what everybody else used, and to get the same level of quality that we needed to get, I had to use it, and that's just the truth, right? Before Sony, I used 3D Coat, and 3D Coat I feel like was very good, but the problem I had with 3D Coat is that 3D Coat didn't give you the precision you needed to get the details out of stuff. So ZBrush did that. So now I find Blender that can do what both the programs could do. Obviously,
can Blender handle all the geo count? Because that was what's so great about ZBrush is that you have like 32 million. You're just sculpting just fine.
Yeah. So Blender goes up to on my computer because I have a pretty beefy computer. I've been able to go up to 60 million polygons.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then, I don't know, if you need more than that, then maybe you should decimate something. But, yeah, so, like, let me show you. So far, you've seen up here that it's got all these different menus, and then you can go to sculpting. And now it's gonna look like you're in a different menu, but you're not. Like, basically, what happened there was that the viewport change, right? So it's a completely different viewport, but it's not like you went into some magic mode or anything. And so what happened behind the scenes is that it just went from, instead of going to edit mode, it went into scope mode, right? And then Blender has all these different modes that allow you to go into different settings, right? So anyway, so to not bore you, I'm gonna come here and basically, right now I'm doing this because that's the stuff I left active. But if I go into here, into scope mode, right now I'm not going to be able to scope anything because this mesh literally doesn't have any detail on it, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to remesh it because I have like different objects. So it's just like ZBrush, like you have stuff, you remesh it, make it one, you keep sculpting, right? Which is also why I was like, oh, maybe I can just use this. So if I hit remesh right now, it did it, like it merged everything together, right?
So remesh is like Dynamesh.
Yeah, exactly.
But ZBrush has remeshes also. So does it have that version as well?
Yeah, so the naming in Blender is a little off, honestly, but it goes back to what I said earlier about Maya and using Blender. Like, if you're not happy, just go use ZBrush, right?
Yeah.
Because I have people fight me over this, and I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you want to use it, if you don't, then you don't, right? But right now, though, it's acting funky because I still have scales turned on. And so, I just set that up. So now if I go back into scope mode, I should be able to scope things, right? And I have a Cintiq, so I have it on another monitor where I'm not sharing the screen, so I'm screwed, but I want to see if I can scope something with my mouse, right? So, you can do all kinds of fun things. Now that there's one full model, we will just pretend that's some crazy stone thing. I'm going to use the same mesh to make a boolean out of it. So, I'm just going to, jam that stuff inside to give it some sort of funky design like this. So, it's like the last time. You just come here and then say modifier and then type in boolean. And then the booleans in Blender are very powerful and they're very good. Like, it was something that Maya always struggled with.
Maya's horrible with booleans. I love Houdini's booleans.
Yeah.
I've always seen Blender do some cool stuff with
yeah,
booleans.
And so see, it did what I wanted to do, and then now I have that. And then based off that, if I like that, then I can basically go in and say apply and jump back into scope mode and then remesh.
That's cool.
My mesh, right?
Yeah. A reminder to check out www.atmovfx.com, where you can find some amazing environment art over there and discover some amazing work for your reference, for your projects and everything. And you can also build your own environment portfolio where recruiters can easily find you. So it's going to be a great resource for recruiters. Now, currently the site is meant for map painters, environment artists, for filming games, concept artists, and also animation stylized environments. If you guys have any suggestions for other features on the site, please let me know and post it in the Discord. I am completely transparent on Atmo and what the plans are.
So now I can continue doing what I was doing. Obviously, if I were doing this.
How do you increase the resolution of the mesh?
So there's two ways to do it. If you hold R, you get this very cool grid, and then you can choose what the little grids is actually the grid size of your mesh.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you don't want to go there, you can do it up here too. It says remesh.
Yeah.
And so I just got used to hitting R and then doing it from here. And then once you have it set, because you only have to do it once, you do Control R, and that's going to remesh it, right?
Gallo is asking, can you use the... Sorry, hold on. Oh, shit. Gallo is asking, can you use the booleans in a non-destructive way, like edit the operands before using them, or edit the operators before using them?
Yeah, you can until Blender decides to crash. So no, not really. You can't do that. I've just noticed that it does get very wonky. Except that right now, the mesh I use for booleaning is still there.
I've seen some cool demonstrations or plugins for Blender where the booleans seem pretty non-destructive.
Yeah, the booleans are very badass up until you go too high.
Once you get too many, say the resolution is too high or something.
Yeah, it worked fine on this because it's such an easy model, right? Mm-hmm. So so now let's pretend that this is my war class Mac app. Because I have this famous Mac app that I share with my ZBrush stuff that everybody uses now. But let me see presets. So Blender, Mac apps, and then I have this scope Mac app material that I created, right? So now everything looks a little nicer because I put in a Mac app, right? But you can also do stuff like doing choosing the wireframe, right? So this is what the wireframe of this mesh looks like. So if I wanted to make a low poly out of this, Blender comes with a very good decimation thing. And then this decimate thing basically, it works just like the decimation master in ZBrush, right? So
That's nice to see live like that.
yeah. So now it works so fluidly because it's not a crazy high poly mesh.
Yeah.
But if it was a crazy, even when it is that crazy, it does do stuff. But what I like about this though is that it has this little vertex group node. So if I go back to your edit tab window, I can go to vertex to weight paint, right? So in weight paint, I could tell it not to touch this part at all.
Cool. It's like ZBrush. You mask out the areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And then you mask that out. And now you say create a new group, right? The group gets created once you start painting. So if you come back here, like see, it deleted at first. So what you want to do is you want to invert it. And now it keeps that part intact, right? So
can you do it after a decimation and you realize, oh shoot, I want that back?
Yeah. So after decimation, all you got to do is go in and paint out the stuff that you don't want, or the stuff.
So I mean, like, so for instance, you already did this decimation right here, and you're like, shoot, I want a higher resolution at the top corner of it.
Yeah. So the resolution, the decimation is live because it's a modifier.
Oh, okay.
So in fact, you can even apply different decimate modifiers on top of each other. So for those times where you're trying to retain even smaller detail, you can create several masks for that. ZBrush can't do that. So it's pretty nice that this thing does. And then that's one of the reasons why I wanted to use Houdini in the beginning, because I saw the potential. Yeah, I saw the potential of like being able to decimate mask in steps.
Yeah.
Meshes and steps. Yeah. So you can do the same thing here. Like I can come in and I can say, if you go over here to this little data node window thing, you can go down to attributes. Sorry, here, vertex groups. And then if I hit a plus sign, now I just created a second mask and you can name them. So second mask. So if I come here to the vertex, to the weight paint, I can add a secondary mask just for this part, right? And I can leave it alone and then go back into this. And then what you can do is that before you remesh, you decimate the previous, I can turn this stuff off. Wait, was that the right thing? Oh, yeah, I couldn't have run things. So now I turn it off. So if I make a new one, so I hit decimate. So with this thing, what this is going to do is that I want to put it at the top because I want this to kick first. So I can select my second mask. And then what you're going to see is that it only touches that part there. See? Right?
Cool. Yeah, this is way more adjustable and customizable than ZBrush.
Yeah, like eventually it crops out too, so you just have to know its limits, right? Like I still use Houdini for low poly sometimes because Houdini has the speed, but if I'm doing something simple, I usually just use Blender because it's easy, right?
Yep.
Now, as far as UV goes, UVs out of Blender, to make the UVs in Blender better, you have to go get a cool add-on. But with the tools that Blender has already, you can do a lot. For example, if I hit W, that enables me face paint mode, so I can select stuff. In Maya, you do this by doing, I think you just hit the tilt key twice, and
I just hit the button on the left side, paintbrush.
Yeah.
And the toolbar.
Yeah. So, but this is neat because you can do it like this, right? So once you have that, you just hit U and then say unwrap, and then there it is, right?
Oh, okay.
So you can hide that, and then now.
But can you control what kind of UV, like based off the camera or?
Yeah, of course.
Cubic or.
So right now, what I want to do though is do one of those famous unwrap tools. So if you hold if you select one edge and then hold control and select the last edge, obviously you should do that cleaner, but now you can come in and tell it to mark seam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's neat about this is that, let's say that you've messed up and you don't like that seam. If you do Shift G, it allows you to reselect your seam, but you have to select something first. So Shift G, seam, right? Without having to create a selection set. That's pretty neat, right? Now, if I do unwrap, it unwrap the thing, right? If you wanted to do a planar projection, you hit U and then you do from view, right? So from here, I will need to go and install an add-on called the text tools, and then the text tool has a very nice horizontal unwrap, just like Maya does, and then it will unwrap horizontally, so you will see all this unfold neatly, right?
Cool.
But yeah, like that's pretty much the whole process, right? Like, and then from that, I don't know, you just keep making more cool peelers.
All right. Well, so that's Blender. You guys have any questions? That's watching this. Feel free to ask anything.
Oh yeah, I also brought my own beer.
Yeah, what are you drinking?
Can we show it? I don't want to get you sued. Like,
Get me sued.
I have a Shiner Buck, the Texan beer.
Bach. Oh, Texan beer. Cool. I don't know what my wife got me. She was like, "Can you just?" Oh, it looks like a wheat beer. Actually, you can see all the
nice
details, like the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool cup. Look at that. It's shaped into a bottle. It's pretty great.
Oh, someone asked you a question.
Do you usually do UVs mainly or with an add-on?
So the stuff I just showed is all out of a box from Blender. I use two add-ons. I use one that is called the text tools, and I use the UV toolkit. And recently I started using the Sand UV tools to replace the other two with. But what I'm learning is that the Sand tools, they don't like organic meshes like this one. And if you're a 3D Max user, then you should be familiar with the text tools. They've been around forever. And then that group decided to make them for Blender, and they're pretty cool, and they're free. The UV toolkit, I don't believe is being made anymore. I just happened to snatch the last copy before they stopped selling it. So the Sand UVs is probably what you would like to use. But you can do a lot with Blender just out of the box. It just depends on what you're doing. If you're doing trims and stuff like that, you should probably use something called Dream UV.
Dream UV. It sounds dreamy.
Yeah. They basically copied. They didn't copy. They basically reproduce a lot of the functionality from Moto that we used to use back at id Software called the hotspot workflow. And what it is like, it basically allows you to automatically unwrap your models based on texture sets. I don't know. It's like this whole crazy workflow. There's like an add-on for everything. And then for the most hardcore people, actually, you know what? I actually have made a list of things. For the most hardcore people, there's like a whole set of tools called the hard ops.
Are you sharing a screen or?
Do you see Blender?
I see Blender.
Maybe I'm sharing.
It was working.
Can you see the?
If you just minimize Blender, I'm sure it'll pop up.
No, I think I'm sharing the app, not the.
Okay.
We can. Let me see if I can re-screen share.
It for a second.
Really?
Yeah, it was up there for like a split second.
But now, no.
Nope. Not.
I'll post it later. But basically, there's like a list of add-ons, but like the one that most people use right away, like all the hardcore Blender guys swear by, is something called the hard ops box cutter tools, which I've never used. And the reason for that is because I picked up Blender on my first day of Respawn out of my own choice. And I just hit the ground running, even though I didn't even know how to move a polygon in it. I just went in. I figure new job, new tech. Yeah, and at first I struggled a lot because things that should have been easy, like doing UVs, was not. Eventually, I figured it out, and then I just kept going, right? And it's not
I'm
because
surprised
someone
you
made
didn't
me.
give up since it was on the job and like you didn't panic of like, fuck, I could be done with this already. Now it's making me look slow.
No, it was more like it was actually the opposite of that. People have said comments, and I decided to prove them that
Prove
I
them
could.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Blender is awesome, and then what I like about Blender is that it's so well documented, and then you can use Stackflow to find all your answers. You can go
Stack
online.
flow.
Yeah, if you know how to use Chat GPT, you can literally make your own add-ons. So if there's like a Tuyo with Dream of Having, you can go ask Chat GPT to make it for you, and then it makes it. Because what an add-on is just a Python file, so it's just a text file really, and then someone put in a bunch of stuff in it, and then so you just drag and drop it into Blender, and now you can use that new tool, right? I actually have a set of tools I built that I've been meaning to release, but I'm kind of shy, so I don't know if I should. But yeah, I don't know. Any other question?
We got first mystery. He says all my friends use a Packmaster add-on. You know what? All your friends should be on here watching this live. So
Yeah, for
let them
real.
know. Tell them what's up so they can learn from the master. Gallo says, around how many add-ons do you use normally? Also, do you have to reinstall the add-ons every time Blender releases an update?
So I have a rule for updates and re-releases for any software. I usually don't use it unless I know that I'm going on vacation. Because if I'm going on vacation, that means I'm at a good stopping point to not work, right? Because you don't want to update your program in the middle of crunch. Like that's never ends well. And then the second rule simply is that yeah, you do have to reinstall them. However, Blender does this thing that when you install a new update, it asks you if you just want to migrate your settings over, and that's usually what I do. And unlike Maya, that brings in all the corrupted stuff, Blender actually only brings the files that it finds on the folder, right? So Blender's pretty good about organizing all these files, and it always just works out. So today I just opened up a brand new version of Blender just so I could show you guys all this stuff. And if this is the speed that I'm doing, like when I'm just talking, like when you're in the zone, you should be able to do like a lot of very cool stuff, right?
Does Blender have a project, like set project or make new project kind of thing? Like, does it have those bunch of folders?
Yeah, but I don't know how to use it. I just open the scene and have my own structure layout.
Okay. All right. You guys have any other questions? Seems like a good one for the first episode.
Yeah, maybe people could submit things they want to see in the next one.
Yeah, we could talk about rendering in other
Yeah,
ways.
that'd be cool. I wanted to show some procedural materials, but we don't have time, I guess.
Oh, that'd be great to talk about procedural because procedural texturing is the way to go, I think. I do literally everything procedurally with Arnold shaders.
Yeah, me too. If I can do it procedurally, I will.
Yeah, because it's just so much faster. This one says, love the 4.0 update. Everyone seems to hype up the light linking.
Yeah, it's impressive to me that it took them this long to put light linking into the program.
Do you have to, since you're in games and you're environment artist for games, do you do much lighting and rendering?
Me?
Yeah.
Not really, because lighting is like a whole different department.
Yeah.
I just let someone else deal with it.
Yeah.
But if I can, I do. And then the lighting guys always listen. If I have feedback, I let them know. But for the most part, though, I just let someone else deal with it because it's like a whole business with the directors and everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Can you add the screencast keys? Oh, you mean like when we press a button, there's the key pops up on the window? Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Ree? I don't know how to do that.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Wait, no, that's not it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this program does it, but not sure. This guy says it's a Blender add-on that shows key presses used for.
Oh, so Blender itself does it. Yeah, cool. I didn't know that.
All right, we're gonna get
I'll look into it.
Thanks. That's awesome. I was actually thinking of that exact thing when we first started. I was like, damn, I'm not gonna need the hotkeys. You're just pressing things. All right, all you guys on here, be sure to get us on Discord. We'll be hanging out on there, so ask any questions, hang out with us, share your work on there, and sign up for atmovfx.com and create your environment portfolio up on there. So yeah, and little heads up, I'm actually in the middle of cloning Atmo into a FX site. There will be a button that will switch it all into effects, so only like explosions and simulations and all that stuff will be on that page with the same kind of hierarchy and organization, where the senior work will be on the home page and the community art will be in the community section and everything else like that. And it'll be a separate anonymous portfolio income survey and all that jazz. So it's going to be growing. It's going to be growing over time. It will be your site of your dreams.
That's very cool, man.
If you guys have any suggestions, anything you want me to add to the site, I'm completely transparent. Let's try to make this the ultimate community. CG Society just closed down.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Yeah,
I'm very sad about that, actually.
Yeah, that was like the go-to place to get help. And I'm assuming they didn't have a marketplace on there. I don't know how they made money, like from ads, I guess. And from
I don't think they did, man.
They had to make money. They got money from ads for sure, but they had these huge events, so they probably made some bank doing that. But yeah, I don't know. It sucks.
That's a shame.
But they had the whole forum thing, so I don't know. Do you guys want a forum feature on Atmo? I currently am using it through Discord. I don't know if you guys like that better or not. But yeah, we need a place where people can help each other out instead of just having to search on YouTube. So anyway, yeah, so that's that. Let's maybe I'll pass the torch over to Atmo. All right, guys, thanks for this, Raul. And
yeah, thank you, everybody.
We will do another one soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Please submit questions or comments.
Yeah, just leave questions on Discord or in the comments of the YouTube video below. And that's that. Thanks for watching, you guys.
All right, see ya.
See ya.